currently you guys can hear. So let's go back. Again, welcome to another episode of All Bass Creations. Is that audio coming through now, guys? I definitely appreciate y'all helping me to that. I definitely, it was, I thought it was on. I had to literally restart the audio interface. But somebody let me know if that audio's coming through now. Is it coming through? All right, good. All right, we in there. All right. Only problem with live streams, boy, is always a little hiccup, huh? So I'll go back and explain. So welcome to another episode of All Bass Creations, effects tutorials and review. So today we'll be doing, going through the preset pack I created for the Meris Enzo X, in case any of you guys were thinking about getting one or have one, and you don't feel like going through the hours that it took me to program this thing for different sounds and have it ready for live shows. So first up we have is the a patch called Bass Negus. Matter of fact, let me turn this off. I got this. So that's Bass Negus 11, right? And so one thing about the these patches are not going to be in like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 order, right? And that's because I didn't want to just save over patches that I already been working on, and a lot of these excuse me, a lot of these bass patches I had to program completely from scratch, but a lot of the pads and stuff that are in this pack are somewhat stock, but I haven't taken the time to go through and tweak every single one of them, so you're not getting just what you would get with the stock Meris, the stock Enzo X. It's actually all of them are tweaked in various ways. You know, some had too much reverb or delay, or just certain things were just too much for a live performance. So I have them where you'll be able to just turn them on, use them, and everything will sound great. So that's the first patch there. The next patch is get you that classic Enzo X sound. And I did this one. This is one of the stock ones that I've tweaked to make it track like that. That's a groove right there. That's why I love this thing. It just gives you little inspirational stuff like this. I'm gonna go ahead and say that. I'm gonna make a song out of that later on or something. But that's what I'm saying. You can just literally, with certain patches like that, that was the Riley ARP. That's patch number 2. Let me switch over to the pedal board view. See here, hopefully that's a better view for you guys on the pedal board. So that was the Riley ARP, arpeggio. So like I said, I just did a little tweaking to certain ones like that to make it usable. for a bassist, you know. Another bass patch. This one is Negus 2 oscillator. So it actually gets all the way down to that E. It actually gets all the way down to the E. What's going on, everybody? Welcome. I appreciate all y'all. Please hit that like button while y'all hanging out with me. I definitely greatly appreciate y'all stopping by. And again, we are going through my bass preset pack that's going to be available on Patreon. All these will be available on Patreon. All these sounds, you won't have to reprogram yours to do all this. You could just go snag it off of my patreon.com/allbasscreations. So, next sound, we have one of the stock pads that I've tweaked to get a nice usable pad for a bass. See what I mean by making it usable for you know, when I'm in a live show, like when I first was playing this patch, it was not moving with me at all. So it took a lot of tweaking, and I had to do some tweaking to the reverb side of things, and the parameters there were a bit much with the way it was stock for a bassist. It didn't track well the way they had it originally set up. I think, probably more set up for guitar, right? So, I've literally made them all usable like this. So, next, that's the Polysoft AM. Next, we got the Poly Sunset. So again, this is just, I love this this Enzo X. It's sounds great. It definitely opens up new ideas out of nowhere, you know. So it's definitely an inspirational piece of gear. It's something that it definitely is its own instrument. You have to almost treat it like it's its own thing. The same thing with something like the Hog 2 and the C4 Synth. These three, you have to treat them like they're their own instruments when you're exploring. You know, you can't just always play how you would normally just play your bass. You got to play so that instrument, you know, the technique that it takes to make that instrument sound good, because they are their own instruments. Now, a tracking tip for octave pedals and synth pedals. Regular, normal synth pedals and octave pedals, you want to boost your high mids, cut your lows, and you know you can leave the highs noon or cut it just a bit, but it's primarily needs the high mid frequencies to track. Where the Enzo X is different, it needs more from the bass, at least. It needs more of the low mid frequency. So I'm boosting around 300, and I'm actually cutting around 40. I'm cutting that, and I'm cutting again around the 5,000 hertz. Like, yeah, and I'm just boosting the high mid. So without the unit, it sounds like this. Almost has like a very boxy sound. But when you kick on the unit, it helps it track better. You know, so that's just a little tip. If you've been having trouble getting the Enzo X to track on bass a little bit better, you know, or get it to track well, rather, you just need to boost your low mids, cut your lows, you know, and definitely cut some of those highs, because some of those high frequencies also cause glitches. And this is the Moody Mono patch. And like I said, some of these are stock patches that I've just taken the time to really tweak. This sounded similar to this when I first got the unit, but I had to do a ton of tweaking to get it to track, a ton of changing of different parameters, and some of the sounds, you know, I try not to, if I like the sound, I try to just preserve it a bit, but things like I might change the modulation that's being used, and just things that make it And that was a patch I created, a little loop I stumbled upon earlier running through one of the other presets. In case you're just joining us, make sure you hit that like button while you're here. It definitely helps me out a lot. And don't forget, if you find this useful, you can hit that Cash App, Super Chat, all that good stuff. But let's go. So that's the Moody Mono. Then we have the VHS Dream. So nice different pads effect. I try to get them the track and sound is usable live. Like like I said, with too much reverb and too much delay on a sound like that, for sure, it's already a longer sound. Live, that just gets lost. If it's too much. So you got to really find that balance, and you got to kind of just trust and believe. Even when you go to play these sounds with a keyboard, it's going to sound good. Energy Stream. This is number 8. So, they all, it's like you can find different occasions for all this type of pads and different things like that. It's just awesome. Amazing unit in general. Get all those different types of pad sounds that, let me see something. And I do love these reverb algorithms on here. The reverb algorithms on here are crazy, especially the large prism joint. Yeah, that joint's fire. It just instantly takes every pad to that next level, that large prism reverb on here. And now we got the Sunset Beach. And again, this is another stock one that I've tweaked the heck out of to get it to do what I needed to do. So hopefully when they do some firmware updates and things like that, some of the little glitches that you're hearing or the tracking issues you're hearing, they'll work out. But it does track well, especially in certain settings. You know, certain ones it gets a little sloppier, but for the most part, it's on point. You know, we didn't even get back to the bass stuff yet, but we'll get there. This is definitely one of my favorite pads, Sunset Beach. It just has some of the coolest sounding pads. And another benefit of the Enzo X is it has a always on noise gate. And you know, that can be, I'm not gonna say, you know, I do like, it doesn't get in the way of saying, it does not affect your sound at all. The noise gate is very clean and it triggers very well, and you can of course set the sensitivity of it and all that good stuff. But you know, it'd be nice if, you know, different patches, it'll save the noise gate setting with it. Again, something they can do with a firmware update, but it's not currently available. But this is the Bass Negus. So this is a synth synth patch that I created for myself. And it's kind of like, almost like a guitar. Like that 80s guitar synth. So, you know, it's a nice, just a different type of lead sound for a bass. It's almost like you can't, of course it's monophonic, so. it tracks relatively well, even with you doing rapid picking stuff. And there's respond to bends as well. I would like it to be just a touch more sensitive with the bends, but it does give you a nice bend. Once you really bend it, it gives you a nice slight bend to it. But that's number 11. We got the polyphosphor. Some of these pads you could just use as just textures for stuff, or just like intro stuff, you know. You hear how long that reverb is? Look how clean that joint is. That is a nice sounding reverb. You can film score with this sound right here. Little creepy scenes and stuff. Yeah. Now we got the poly panning. One of my absolute favorite patches. So, beautiful pad there. Another one I like. You could do a whole film score with this pedal, for real, for real. A little anxiety building sound there. So, you know, that joint's fire. That LFO filter art. And like I said, I've taken the time to really make sure that these will track well for you on bass. The hard part about getting the, you know, guitar bass pedals, or you know, a pedal primarily meant for guitar, is getting it to track well on bass, right? So this is Mono Nightwind. Again, another stock patch that I did a ton of tweaking to get it to sound and cut through a little bit more when you're using it live, and to get it to track well for bass. So here we go. So, nice solo patch for you there. Tracks relatively great. So nice flute type synth there with a little bit of the wind noise going there. It's a noise generator that's built into the Enzo X. which is another useful feature, having that. I know it doesn't seem like something that you would use all the time, but anytime, you're using pads or different things like that, and you just want to spice it up, that noise generator, a little swooshing sound, just kind of adds a little bit to it, and you can change the amount and the volume of it as well. You don't have to have it that loud. You can bring it down, whatever you need and whatever you like with it. So, let me make sure this up. So, yeah, that's a little better. Make sure y'all can hear me without the volume spiking and decreasing so much. This is the Poly Stab. This is the Poly Pulse sequence, and this is number 17. I don't know. We might have to break this up into part twos, because this, it's literally 100 patches on this joint that I sat down and created. So this is going to literally be not 100 patches that I created. Let me rephrase that. It's a ton of patches I created in there. I think it's like 25, 30 of them in there that I actually created myself. The rest of them are tweaked stock presets. And the reason why I keep making that clear is because I don't want things to get confused. Like every single one of these I created from scratch. I didn't. A lot of these pads already sounded amazing. And it's no point in recreating the wheel, but I had to get them to where they were usable for a basis, because everything, like nothing was tracking too well when I first got it. Took me a while. It took me about an hour or two just figuring out, the best tracking settings. Then it took a while to figure out how the filter and everything was working. Then in the oscillators, and then of course how do I there's so many options within here. You can move the distortion, the modulations, or the delay or reverb around to different positions. On the dry signal, you can have it on the affected signal, the oscillators. It's a lot of options in here. So, that's why I'll probably end up making a whole nother pack of these, just because it's just so many options in there. Eventually, I'm going to have to dump some of these off so I can create some new patches. But especially with stuff like this, really keep an open mind. Just kind of play around with it and really listen. Let the sound do the work. For these sequence type sounds, arpeggiated sounds. So now we're back to the bass synth stuff. So this is a patch that I did create from scratch. This is Bass Negus TRSO. So let me make sure I keep that camera. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So as you can see there, it does track very well. Like it, and you can get some nice funky bass stuff out of this unit, even though it's viewed as primarily like a pad unit, right? You know, but I found that these, like the oscillators, have a very rich sound to them, and I hope that's translating like through for you guys. So nice. Let me see. It'd be nice if they could have that, like, just glide a little bit more. Let me see something. They do have a glide function in here, but I would just suggesting, Meris, if you happen to be listening, can we get that glide setting a little, like soon as you turn it on? See, I'm gonna try to get it on as low as possible. This is 0.8%. See, I don't want it to do it like that. I just want it to be a smooth transitions between notes. I don't want it to like initially glide. I want it to initially play the note, and then when I go to the next note, glide to the next note. Right now it's just yeah, you know what I'm saying? But I would want it to be more just like when you play a regular synth bass, you know what I'm saying? You press a note and it glide a little bit. You just turn the, you know what I'm saying? It's not gliding between notes. So see, like even now, even with the, let me turn it up. Now the notes aren't even recognizable. You know, so that's why I don't use the glide function, because it's not the portamento I would prefer. But yeah, so let's move on. That was number 18. This is number 19, Bass Negus Glow. So I know I love a good pad. Oh, sorry. Dang on my. So all of these have modifiers and different things. I just don't have time to go through every single modifier and everything. As you could tell, we're only on number 19, and there's 100 of these, and I'm not going to be able to get through all these right in one session, right? So, but that's what took me so long to put this pack out. I've had this pedal for a few weeks now. All right, so that was the Poly Negus Glow. Here is the Negus octave down. And so I kind of designed this to give you like almost like the same as the Hog 2. Mommy, I'm working. I know. That's why I have my phone like that. I'll call you back. All right. So, yeah, the octave down patch I created there kind of gives you, let's do a quick, let's put on the Hog 2 real quick. That was the Enzo X, Hog 2. And if I wanted to, I could add a little bit more bottom to the Enzo X one by just adding some bass frequencies from my actual bass. That's the Enzo X. Hog 2. So it really just gives you another flavor of an octaver, right? So If you don't have an octaver, say you have you don't have the money to buy all these pedals separately, the Enzo X is great because you can almost, well, not almost, you can use it like a multi-effects unit. It technically really is. It's a multi-effects unit with a synth portion to it. It has delays, reverb, modulations like chorus flanger, tremolo, phaser, things like that. It also has different types of distortion. So you'll have like tube type distortions in there. You even got a bit crusher. You got a ring modulator in there. You got a noise generator. And not only that, you got extensive routing. You got stereo in and out. You got MIDI. You can always use these same sounds with a keyboard. If I wanted to hook a keyboard to this right now and use these exact sounds, it's not even like I have to switch anything over. I just plug in the MIDI keyboard and start playing. This is an amazing little unit for $600. I know $600 sounds like a high price point for it, but when you take into account that it has things like their Mercury X algorithms in it and modulations and everything else, like it's got top-notch everything. The build quality is great, all nice and solid. You got plenty of knobs to edit things. And on top of all that, you got plenty of space to store things with a nice screen, So and it also has a tuner. You can press these two, and the tuner will come up. Now you can tune if you would like to. It's important that your bass is in tune for it to track well. So that's another thing you want to tune up for sure before you start playing with this unit. But then you got little shortcuts, like you can switch the banks up and down as well, pressing 2 foot switches. But yeah, it gives you access. These 3 foot switches give you access to 3 different sounds instantly. And if you need to switch banks, you just press up or down bank. So I think very thoughtful, very it's pretty much, it's an ingenious little design, to be honest with you. Not to mention that they can always do upgrades to it. So this is Bass Negus scan. Just the quality of the sounds are amazing in this thing. It's just it makes you want to sit there and just play and create, because it's like a whole totally different instrument. I promise you it is. It's worth the 600. Trust me. If you into synth stuff, or you want to just get into some different sounds on your instrument that you could never get to with just effects, This is a good unit for that, for sure. Polyphasal. So if you're into more experimental sound, This is plucked art. See, these give you different possibilities with basic things. I'm just playing one note at a time there. Let the arpeggio do the work. This is Street Dome 97. Like I said, some of these are stock sounds that I just tweaked a bit to get them to track decently. It is funny because it's like certain sounds. I'm like, what are we really going for there with that? You know, but some of these are stock sounds that, like I said, I just tweaked. I didn't want to get rid of all the stock sounds because the unit has amazing, you know, stuff just right out the box. So. Epic. My guy Neo with the super chat, I definitely appreciate you. Yeah, bro, I had to take a little break, man. I had to, you know, sometimes when you're grinding and doing everything, you gotta take some time for yourself and just clear your head a little bit. I had to give my hands a little rest. I've been playing since I was 4. I'm 35 now, so you know, my hands got 31 years of music on them. So I had to, for the first time in my life, I actually took I can never take an entire week off from playing because I got to make a living, right? But I actually took days off from playing. That's why, you know, you haven't seen me. But I definitely appreciate you always stopping by and you always hitting me with the super chat and showing love. I appreciate it. Thank you. So that's the poly vibe right there. Then we got the impact art. You can use a lot of this stuff for like film scoring stuff or just special effects in songs. So now we're getting back to the bass sounds. This is Negus mono bass right here. nice bass synth sound there. That's number 27. You know what I'm saying? So number 28, we got Bass Negus 4. And again, these the patches I created, I did not create them in order. I had to save them where I could in different slots. You know, they only gave you like 20 free open slots, and the rest of them was filled with different presets. So I had to spend time filtering through what presets I thought was just not going to be used at all, and then save over those and create the others. So that's why. So Bass Negus 4. Quick question here. What we got? How do you get it to track faster? Obviously, swells won't be fast, but what are you playing? No. Fast. So what it is when you're seeing me doing the faster lines, it's more than likely in mono mode. So like this, like all the bass synth stuff, anything you don't see me playing chords at all is usually in the mono synth. And so you can play fast or slow in mono. The poly mode, it doesn't track as fast because it's trying to track more accurately to you know, hit all the notes, basically track all the notes. So poly just means more than one note at a time. Mono means one note at a time. And the benefit of one note at a time in the mono mode is that it is going to track faster. So say you want to play melodies or solos or faster single lines, you're going to go with the mono side of the synth. If you want to play chords and pads and things that don't need to move as fast, but you need it to be able to track more notes, you use the poly mode. So I hope that makes sense. Now, like I said, I had to go through with this preset pack. One of the benefits of it is I went through and tweaked all these different presets, the tracking on them. You have to literally set up that tracking for every single patch because different patches, different oscillators, different modes require different types of tracking. So you have to know what those are, and you really have to, it's not going to be the same for every patch. Like literally every single one of these patches has a different tracking setting that I've sat there and done. This pack took me a couple weeks to put together. But that's why gotta get it like a Moog type synth in there. So that is Bass Negus number 4. bass synth in the Enzo X pack, right? So, and all these pack is going to be on the Patreon in the next day or two. So you'll be able to, if you have an Enzo X or you plan on getting one, you can just download the pack, throw it onto your pedal, and all of these sounds will instantly be available to you. You won't have to spend the hours I did putting together these different sounds. Because trust, it takes some patience and a lot of experimenting. So here's the Bass Negus Murph. So, it does track lower, but with the octave down oscillator on there as well, it kind of, it gets really below where you really want it to go. I wouldn't take this sound past the B on the low E string. And I still would want to play it up an octave. Because it already got the octave down in there, so. It does get heavy down there, though. I will say it does get heavy. And it does, you wouldn't be expecting this pedal to be so good at bass synth stuff, but it's actually really good at bass synth stuff. Well, no, you don't want to run the C4 synth into the Enzo X. You can and just use the effect side, but not with the oscillators on, because then you're trying to get the oscillators in the Enzo X to track the oscillators in the C4 synth along with that filter. A lot of times that's on the C4 synth stuff that sweeps, that interferes with tracking. So if you want to use the distortion, the modulation, the reverb stuff on here, like the bit crusher, the ring mod, you can use all of that stuff on the Enzo X on the dry signal part of it. So you just would go to the system set, not the system set, you go to the, I think it's the global settings, one of those settings in the pages, setup pages, right? And you would just route that effect only to the dry signal. Turn off the oscillators, and so it'll just be the dry signal, and then you can choose what you want, the distortion, the modulation, and the reverb, that you want. And then you can run the C4 synth into it and just use it like a multi-effects unit. That's why I said it's a great unit even without the oscillators. The algorithms that are in there for the effects are really good, and they stand on their own. I'll give you I don't really have time to give you an example of that right at the moment, but, well, yes, I do, because I actually have a patch like that. I'll just come back to that. Here it is. So, like, this chorus and reverb I have for solo stuff. So that's an example. That's actually number 93 in the preset list. And that's my reverb and chorus, like solo type stuff that I like to use. That's what I'm saying. Yes, you could technically take the C4 synth, something like, let's see, boop, boop. Yep, something similar to that. Oh, that's one. So that's the C4 synth technically running into the Enzo X. So, yeah, technically you can, but you know, if that's why I have it at the end of my chain here, because this I'll just for gigs and stuff. What I've been doing is I'll just take this pedal board. So this is two different pedal boards here. This is a side and this is a different side. So I'll take this much of the pedal board whole setup with me, because it has like my bass synth stuff, my Enzo X pad stuff. It's got the Atlas compressor, which functions as a compressor and an EQ for me, and some tube saturation from the tube compressor in there. And you know, I got all my amp models, pad stuff with the deep freeze and layers. You know, it's just a nice little setup, and the Enzo X rounds it off because it has all the modulations, delays, reverbs, and all that stuff in full stereo at that. So running, it got a stereo compressor to handle all the stereo coming out of there. But this thing is a landmine of creativity. It just to make your creativity explode, because there's so much stuff in here. It's so much stuff. It's like even when you think you got it all figured out, you can go and create something else. Yeah, I am. I gotta get my hands on a Future Impact. Thank you, Neil. I also appreciate that super chat. Appreciate you a lot. I am gonna get my hands on a Future Impact at some point. I just haven't had the time to, like I said, because I took that little break. I took a little break from buying pedals and stuff too. So, but yeah, you know, even if you don't buy the pack, brother, I do appreciate if you do. But, you know, I definitely would am going to come out with the Future Impact, because that should have a pack too. I should be able to create a pack for the Future Impact stuff. So hit that like button if you going, if you hanging out with me wherever you are. Definitely appreciate you. Definitely appreciate you, Neo, for the super chats. All right, let's get back to the bass synth stuff in the Enzo X. This is number 30, Bass Negus 13. So it does track well. If you can do all that, most of your bass lines aren't going to be doing all of that type of stuff. But it is nice that it can, follow you if you decide to go there. There's nothing wrong with that. So here is, which one are you on? 31, Bass Negus 3. Yeah, so that definitely uh cover a lot of little bass synth stuff for you. And keep in mind, this same pedal you can easily just hook a keyboard to and run these same exact bass synth sounds from a keyboard. And for me, I like to use my bass instead of using the keyboard, and it's just one less thing I have to bring, and I can still get those authentic bass sounds between the C4 synth and the Enzo X and the Hog 2. You can get pretty much the majority of the modern bass synth sounds that you're hearing from the Moog or whatever. So, it's not even a big deal no more to have all that separate stuff. Think of this like its own keyboard, and same thing with the C4 synth. Think of this like its own little synth, mono synth keyboard type thing. So that was Bass Negus 3. Here's number 4, number 34. Now I know some of these will sound slightly similar, but they really are different sounds. Right? That's 3. Here's 4. It's a much more mellow, but that one sings more to me. Number 4 sings more. Number 5. It's even responsive to your touch. So nice fat bass sounds from this thing. And to be honest, like nobody's really showing that. I don't know why nobody's showing, or I'm not sure even why Meris hasn't shown the bass side of this thing yet. Like really shown these bass synth patches that this thing can really create. This, when you get it, you won't know that it has none of these sounds in there for real, because none of the sounds sound like this. When you first get it, none of them have none of these bass synth stuff. It's just almost non-existent. Here's Bass Negus number 6, number 34. Another one of my favorites right there. It's almost like these are sounds you cannot get without having a real synth. That tells sing. All right, next. Number 7. Number 35. Bass Negus number 7. See, I started getting like really, there's so many variations for every sound. It's just ridiculous. I'm saying people sleeping on the Enzo X, dog. Like I know it's expensive, dog. I know. I said it when I saw it. I was like, this joint, 600. You know what I'm saying? You know what I could do with 600 out here? But when you stop looking at it as an effects pedal and look at it as it's actually its own keyboard synth engine. Like it's like if you took the engine out of a Moog or something and you dropped it into a pedal and then you threw some of your favorite effects in there that were very high quality effects, like top notch stereo imaging and everything. Like, but even without it, like you hear that modulation. That is a nasty synth right there. Bass Negus 8. This is number 36. It's kind of like a little laser bass. See, I gotta watch myself getting caught. I get caught up on certain sounds. Certain sounds I really, really like just because it's so different than the normal bass sounds you would hear. You know, that joint's drippy right there. That's drippy. You show up to a gig with that one, they be like, what is that? That's fire. And it just got that real authentic. You know, you can even do like dubstep type stuff with that. You know, that's why I was. Nah, I don't really want it to pick up all those ghost notes. A lot of that is just how I naturally would play something like that. If it was a bass sound, you don't really want it to pick up all of those ghost notes, because then it's just it doesn't. That's not really how you play synth bass. Like if you were playing it on keys, you do some ghost note type stuff, but it's really not super prominent like that. Really, with bass synth, you don't even need to do it. You just do. And a lot of times, for me, so you know, it just depends. It really just depends. And the fatness of a sound, really, you know, a lot of that's EQ'd in later. A lot of what you're hearing with a lot of sounds, you know, that you're hearing finished sounds with a record, like, you know what I'm saying? So that means the bass frequencies or whatever have been fitted perfectly for that song, and the engineer themselves makes it fatter. Now, if you send a too much bass, a super duper bassy sound to a sound engineer, all they're going to end up doing is cutting your bass frequencies down in the mix. You won't know because you're on stage, but that's what they're going to do out there in the audience anyway. Like, I kind of made these sounds so they would sound good right off the back, and I did them so they would have a lot of clarity. I prefer to have them cutting like that. You can always add more bass. I can always add more bass. I chose to bring that bass down instead of. I can just change the EQ of my actual bass and it'll bring out. But you know, I'm going for more clarity with these sounds than just straight up raw bass. You know, otherwise, you know, with all that extra stuff going on, I want to cut through the music more. You can always, the sound engineer can always add more bass, and you know, but if you have cut out all the detail in a sound, or the sound's not detailed enough, it's going to be very hard to get them to make that cut through a mix. This particular sound is going to cut. For some situations, maybe even too much, you know. That's why we got different patches. And mind you, like I said, all these sounds are going to be available on Patreon in the next day or two. Patreon.com/allbasscreations. You can get this entire list. You know, I'm not going to make it through. I'm going to try to make it to 50 of them today. I'm on 37 now, and I'll do the rest tomorrow. I'll do the other 50 through 100 tomorrow of different presets and stuff that I've done on here. But, you know, this pedal right here, mind you, it's not the end all be all of everything. You know what I'm saying? Let's you know, I don't work with Meris, and I don't get no kickback from Meris or any other company that you see from these pedal board, you know, up here. I buy this stuff on my own, so I get to say what I want. Yeah, the muddier frequencies, it's not necessarily fatiguing. It's more so that it'll be too much bass frequency. Say like you're looking at a chart, right? Say like this is the sound. Let me switch the views. This might help some of y'all out, so I'll go ahead and explain it real quick. So say this the whole spectrum, right? And you got your bass frequencies boosted like this. Now, anytime that they have to make a lot of adjustments to get the rest, the mids and the highs to where they might be slightly lower than than the lows, but you don't want them too scooped out because then you won't have any detail in every note. So like the actual note sound, like if I scoop my mids now, right, and I boost my lows like that. When you go to play like that in a mix, that all those details, anytime you do all that stuff, it's gonna get really lost in there, right? But if I have just my mids flat, right, that brings it out. If I have them boosted in the high mids, and that's without the highs at all. If I go turn the highs to flat, and bring the lows down, so the lower frequencies are more, think of those as when you want them to feel it more, like when you want to feel the actual bass notes more, you'll add some bass frequencies. But when you want all your detail is going to be in your mid range, how you scoop your low mids or not, or how you scoop your high mids or boost them or not. So that's where all your detail is going to be. The highs and the lows on your bass is more like seasoning, especially the treble knob. Treble knob is just seasoning. If you needed to sparkle a little more, add a little treble. If you needed to add a little bit more low end, or like you feel like you wanted to feel it a little more, you add a little bit of bass, and then you do that until you get to the exact point that you like. But that's just a little tip on getting your sound overall with just your bass or any sound that you're creating, how to like kind of judge if it's going to cut or not. You know what I'm saying? You want to make sure those details, all the details in the mid range. So keep that in mind. When you EQing your bass, don't overly scoop your bass out. That does not make you sound good in a mix with other people playing. Maybe by yourself, but not with everybody. So here we go. Where we at? Number 9. We did number 9 yet? Number 9. So that one's a much rounder, warmer sound than the previous one. So the previous one definitely cuts a lot. Something like that is definitely for, either like super, electronic stuff type, or like use that for smoother R&B songs, ballads. Especially because it responds to your touch. whatever you want to use that for. Lots of uses for a sound like that. So now we got number 10. So another nice smooth bass sound there that you can use for a lot of very versatile. You know, you can also choose to open the filters. You know, all these have filter cutoffs, and if you want that sound to open up a little bit more, you can always adjust the filter cutoff, and that'll brighten the sound up or make it duller, so, or warmer. You know, whatever way you want to look at it. Skip over that one. That's just the original Enzo arpeggiated sound. And like I said, the stock sounds all have been tweaked, even the ones I don't like that are left. Some of these, you know, some of the stock ones are a little more over the top. Let's go ahead. This is Bass Negus 14. So a little something there. This is the Flutter Mono. Polyfifth, this is number 46. I love these pads on this. This joint is amazing with the pads. There is no better pad machine out right now, in my opinion. You know, I know a lot of you got the things like the Chase Bliss, Mood 2, and other little things like that, but those are pretty much just, you know, different types of delays and reverbs with a few modulations and stuff in there. This is a whole different type of pad machine. This is its own. You moving the keyboard player all out the way. They want to play key bass? They want to play key bass? All right, cool. We're going to start pulling up with the Enzo X, playing the piano parts on you. Y'all started this. Y'all should have never started playing key bass. Now the bass player is catching up, taking spots. This is Arc Waves. There we go. It's that film scoring right here. This is mono drone. That sounds crazy. And that is one of the stock ones that I just tweaked. But it was already right, you know what I'm saying? Like you can use that. You can use that for like film scoring all day, like. Change the modifier. straight up film scoring type stuff. Just, you know, it's just something else to have in the bag in your arsenal, you know, type of sound. You know, you never know when it can come in handy. That's stupid. First off, that's a stock preset. Like I said, that I just tweaked. That's insane. That modifier, the thing with this pedal too is you can set this modifier to set up like 6 different things with one press, and it can do all that stuff at once. And you can set up your expression pedal to do the same thing, which is really insane because everything can be controlled with a modifier or the expression pedal. Not just the filters, not just the modulation time, and not just top tempo, straight up modifying. Let's use the place now. Inside of a reverb, an additional reverb. Oh, that's so peaceful at the end. It's like it's so chaotic of a sound, but on the flip, once it resolves itself, the tail of it, that tail. That little breaking up you're hearing at the end of the sound is only because the noise gate is on. So once it gets to that threshold of the noise gate, the noise gate starts to kick in. That's what you're hearing at the very, very end of it. But it will just trail all the way out. But I love that large prism reverb in there. It's insane. Got the console art. Messing with the modifier. So that's the last patch I'm going to do for today. But like I said, this all these exact sounds, the exact way you're hearing them with my exact tracking settings and all the different parameters and things that I've tweaked and everything else. It'll sound exactly like that. That's one of the benefits of the synth units. When you drop it on your pedal, it's going to sound exactly like how you're hearing it right now. So, if you want to check out any of my other packs, so you got the C4 synth pack. I think that's about 42 different sounds in there. If you want the C4 synth bass pack, the ToneX one, I got 11 different preamp packs available for this, including things like Aguilar AG preamp, the Gensler Magellan, the Eden WTDI. We got the Ampeg SGT, Ampeg BA series head. We got the Jens Ben Shuttle 9. We got the Little Mark, Little Mark 3. We got all these different preset packs available on there. You got things like the color box on there, color box presets for the ToneX series pedals and software. And we also have packs for the MS-60B Plus, the MS-70 CDR Plus, and the Zoom B6, which are all, you just download them, drop them onto the pedals, and it literally would be the exact sounds from my pedals on your pedals. So if that's something that interests you, you can head over to the patreon.com/allbasscreations, and it's exactly how it sounds. ALLBASSCREATIONS. So, yeah, or if you just want to support the channel more, we jumping back into things, but I really do appreciate all of you guys hanging out with me. It does mean the world to me that you guys would spend some of your time with me, even just watching me go through stuff or play through stuff. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for me, and I will catch you guys next time. You have been amazing today. I appreciate all the support, the super chats, everything. Thank you, guys. This has been another episode of All Bass Creations, Effects, Tutorials, Demos, and Review. I am the Bass Negus. Find me on all platforms. NEGUS, you know what I'm saying? You'll find me on all platforms.